All right, everybody. This is Scott from Birdland BS at Scott BLBS, joined by many hosts and celebrities, we'll say, of the social media world. We are joined by my co-host at Fred BLBS from Birdland BS, at Ingraven Vids. Ingraven, how's it going out there, man?
Pretty good, team. Keep it clean. What's going on? Let's
Yeah,
get this thing started.
representing over there. And then we got from at NF Podcasts, Joe. What's going on, Joe?
What's up, guys? I'm ready to get this started, man.
Let's get it underway.
We're right on time, guys. What are you talking about? Right on time.
and we've got Sonny from SZG Sports. What's going on, Sonny?
Everything is good. By the way, I just point notice, and here's an hour later, so hey,
Yeah.
I'm ready too.
Oh, it is?
All right, guys. Well, let's get this straight underway. We're going to go a little round robin style here, a little 2 minutes on each topic that we discuss. Everybody's going to get their 2 minutes, and you'll hear a buzzer when your time is up. I'm going to do a coin flip here, and I'm just going to say, Ingraven, you're going to get the first question to start.
Yikes.
And it's
All right.
going to be on the latest news that has just broken within the past hour or so, and that is that the Baltimore Ravens announced on their Twitter feed that they are talking and looking at extensions with John Harbaugh. Your thoughts? Go.
I'm kind of neutral on this whole thing because I can understand why. Because with the whole switch to Lamar Jackson, I can understand why they're doing it. Because if it was based on everything before Lamar, then I definitely wouldn't be for it. But since they're winning right now, they decided to, you know what, we're not going to have any speculation. And going into this Chargers game, and really for the rest of the season and going into next season, it's going to be crystal clear. John Harbaugh is going to be our guy. I am a little skeptical of the timing of it, with it being right before the Chargers game, because a lot of people, I even did a video earlier today, about why, or asking if John Harbaugh loses to the Chargers, would he still keep his job, or if he wins, would that make the Ravens keep him? So the timing is just crazy. It's the biggest thing with me. It's not even really John Harbaugh. Well, John Harbaugh is a big part, but it's Marty Mornhinweg, the offensive coordinator. Because I don't see John Harbaugh firing him, and I think the only way that he ends up going is if it comes from upstairs. But I'm neutral on it. It's still kind of not necessarily a shocker to me, but I haven't taken it all in yet.
It's going to be tough to take a lot of this in, that is for sure. All right, let's go round the screen since we can't say that other word. SZG, Sonny, what's going on? What do you think?
So, like in Raving, I was shocked on timing. Timing is surprising. The reports when was it Lockenfora broke it? Lockenfora lies half of the time. I think just he makes stuff up, to be honest. So that being said, I like the stability of John Harbaugh. The only problem that I have with Harbaugh is he's too loyal to his OC, DC, and his staff, right? We haven't had many problems with the defensive coordinator area, but offensive coordinator, I remember with Caldwell, same thing. If it took him, the Lions taking him. So I'm hoping, I can only hope that Marty calls really good game plans in the next couple of weeks, which I haven't been a big fan of his calling during the games. But another team just takes him. I might just take him to the airport personally. I will help him pack.
He gone.
Again, I'm not a big fan of I don't have a big problem with Harbaugh. It's Marty, like Ingraven said. So it's my take.
All right, Joe, you're up, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with pretty much everything you guys said. The big problem, I think, has been Marty Mornhinweg over everybody. I even think Greg Roman deserves to be our offensive coordinator. That's my opinion. I think he's shown more that because we're a run-first team. We've shown that, especially since now that we have Lamar. So and Greg Roman obviously has all these crazy run schemes, and I just think he would work a lot better with us. And when I was one of the people calling for Harbaugh to be fired during the middle of the season because it's not necessarily a problem with Harbaugh himself. It's just that I don't trust him to choose the right offensive coaches for this team, you know? Like, I'm afraid he's going to stick with Marty next year, you know, depending on how well we finish this season. And yeah, I mean, I've never had a problem with Harbaugh. I just don't feel like he has the offensive mind to make us an offensive powerhouse, right? So,
Fair enough. Fair enough. He's a special teams coach and stays loyal to that too. So,
yeah.
all right, Fred, it is your turn, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah, so kind of tagging along with what you guys have said, I think the timing of this decision right before the Chargers game is kind of interesting to say the least. I think if this is the direction and this is the future that they're going to offer him extension, I'd like to know the parameters of the deal. I'd like to know if there was a conversation where it said, okay, John, we are going to extend you, but you know what? We're going to relinquish your rights to draft selections, because there's been a lot of questions about how much influence John has had through the drafts. Also, is Eric going to be more in charge over the offensive coordinator position versus, Harbaugh having too much weight on that position? I think Marty does need to go, and I think they need a young mind in here. They need a college offense style offensive coordinator here. I don't want a retread. I don't want a guy that's, been there, done that before. I want a guy that's more a college, like I said, a college-based offense, somebody that's going to make Lamar flourish. And that was kind of my worry about keeping Harbaugh, was that, to your guys' point, that he's just too loyal to some of his guys, doesn't hold them to the dirt enough. So I'd really be interested to hear the parameters of this deal, to know if there are certain stipulations with it. And I guess those results, or those tidbits of information, will come out soon enough.
But I'm sorry to interrupt, but I doubt that we were gonna see a leak of, hey, well, Harbaugh got a 3 or 4 year extension, and well, he's not gonna be a big part of the draft, or he's not gonna be the person selecting the OC. I think the Ravens typically keep that in house. You get the crazy guys like on 4, just blabbing anything, but as we can see, he's wrong more than half of his time.
They don't have to come out and directly say it. I think you'll see it more in actions, and you'll see in press conferences, just based on conversations and what's said and what's not said anymore. And then you'll see in actions. I mean, obviously, if the end goal is keeping Harbaugh and Marty, this is a terrible decision. There's gotta be change. I mean, I have not been happy with Harbaugh for a while. As much as I like him as a man, and as much as I like him as a person, he's a terrible in-game coach. Terrible. And I don't know. There's gotta be a bigger picture out of this whole entire situation.
So it sounds like everybody's on the same page, that not exactly fully committed to Harbaugh in the first place. Him going away is not such a bad thing, but now with the extension, we got to kind of see where it takes us. And it sounds like you guys are all on the same page of the offensive coordinator as well, that needs to change. Now, let's kind of transition that with an offensive coordinator. One of the things that it sounds like all of you guys agree on is Lamar's development and the role that offensive coordinator is going to play in that transition for Lamar. So let's start with Sonny. Sonny, what is your take on the role of the development of Lamar, and also maybe kind of factor into this playoff run, and how does that hinder or help his development?
Well, me and Raven had a live like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we talked about this a little bit, but I think the best thing that happened to Lamar is game time. I think it helped him during the year having a little bit of game time. At this point, the reps, you can see him going to progressions. You can see him, he trying to set up in the pocket. Almost he feels even more comfortable as games go by in that pocket. Even when he scrambles out, he still has that looking down the field. I remember when I used to see Kaepernick or RG3, as soon as they scramble out of the pocket, unless it was like a naked boot, they were running. Lamar, actually I get frustrated with him sometimes because he does scroll down to the right, to the left, and I'm like, there's open field, but he is looking to pass. this perception that doesn't look to pass is erroneous. He does look to pass. I think with time, with the right person here, he can be a really good passer. That plus legs, he's gonna be deadly.
Okay. All right. Well, Joe, what do you have to say in response to that?
Well, going back to the question, I've seen a lot of. I love watching the media talk about the Ravens because a lot of the time they just don't know what they're talking about. Colin Cowherd specifically, but I've seen.
Not to
I've
name
seen
drop
people.
or anything.
Right, sorry, but I've seen interviews with Mike Vick because I think if you guys know already that him and Lamar Jackson are like best buds, right? So, and Mike Vick always brings up that Marty, was with him, I believe in Philadelphia all those years ago. So he's the right coach for Lamar Jackson. But I don't know. Like I said, I think I fell in love with the idea of having like an offensive minded coach. Like, you see the Sean McVays and the Matt Nagy's, and I fell in love with that idea of maybe getting someone from college to like bring in a new coach for that development for Lamar Jackson to make it an exciting offense in Baltimore. But I mean, we just have to see how it goes, man. Yeah.
So would you say that this playoff run could help or hinder him?
Oh, it'll definitely help him for sure. To be put in these situations with so much pressure, it really gets him, used to that idea that, okay, every game is important, especially now that he started so late in the season and we're trying to push for the playoffs. I think for him to be thrown into the fire is great by John Harbaugh. Well, of course, he had to start because of Joe Flacco's injury, but I think it's a good situation for him to be in, and I believe that his development is more important than making the playoffs this year, but that's a debatable topic.
All right, easy enough. Well, Fred, what's your take on it, man?
Yeah, so I think the entire situation, to Noobo's point there, I think it's good for his development as far as getting prepared here for the playoff run and even going with Lamar if we do make the playoffs, going through the playoff run. I just think that with Lamar, you have to manage your expectations with him, right? So to your point, Sonny, he does scramble out of the pocket a lot, and when he scrambles out, he does look downfield. He is looking to pass before he actually commits to run. The amount of plays that he's actually running right now are so limited because he only knows so much of the playbook, and they're trying to limit, I think, some of the mistakes, right? Because they do want to make a playoff run, so they're trying to get his feet wet without throwing him into the fire, if that makes sense. And I think right now that's probably the best approach with Lamar going forward is, yes, albeit the exposure is good, but you don't want to set him up to fail, right? You don't want to throw too much at him. To be honest with you, prior to the Flacco injury, I was of the mindset I didn't want to see Lamar at all this year. I wanted to sit an entire year behind Flacco. But I think now that the injury is it is what it is, and he's had these few games, let him get as much exposure as you can without throwing too much at him. Let it just kind of be chipping away, one thing at a time.
All right, easy enough. How about you, Ingraven?
Yeah, and I think just to sort of piggyback off of that too, we have been seeing more and more of Lamar Jackson and seeing them open up the playbook a little bit more and more each and every week. It hasn't been by leaps and bounds or anything, but they've consistently been allowing him to do more, as they did throughout the beginning of the season, even though it was with those goofy gimmick plays. For the longest, they just let him run. You always knew whenever Lamar was going to come in the game, when he did the gimmick plays, he was going to run, or maybe hand it off to a running back too. Then slowly, they started letting him do some passes out of those plays. And then when the injury to Joe Flacco happened, then everything went haywire, and it's like, okay, Lamar time now. So they've been having him manage the game, but not really take over yet, which is understandable because they had to change the offense completely. Now, as far as his progression and his development and whatnot, I think them pushing for the playoffs and even possibly get into the playoffs, I think this, like Sonny said earlier, I think the game time is great because you can, and this is with any job, with anything that you do, you can only be so good from studying. You can only be so good from looking at papers and studying, looking at the playbook and whatnot. You can only be so good, but until you actually do it, when you get that real hands-on experience, that's when you can take what you learned to that next level. Now, I think as far as Marty Mornhinweg, whether it's him or whether it's somebody else, there's going to be a big change with the offense this coming off season. So if Marty stays, that'll be it'll be frustrating, but at the same time it'll be I can't even it feels weird saying this, but if Marty stays, it'll be good for Lamar's development. I just cringe saying that.
That was like one of
don't
those
even-
things you just got to pull it back in as it comes out. Just pull
Yeah.
it back.
And the only reason I say that is because it'll give Lamar consistency, and he'll be able to allow Lamar to do more. But at the same time, if they did get a different offensive coordinator, which I don't think anybody would be upset about, Lamar could still grow in that aspect because, like I said, either way, the playbook's gonna change. What they're doing now is they have a limited playbook. They have just limited creativity and whatnot. So I think either way, whether it's a new offensive coordinator or the same offensive coordinator, the playbook is going to change, and Lamar's going to have to learn a lot more than he knows now, because they're going to have to do a lot more than they do now. Oh, that just felt weird saying that, man. It made my stomach hurt.
Can I add something real quick?
Go ahead,
Going
man.
back to from both Ingraven and Joe, continuity I think is really good for him. That's why, piggybacking what Joe said, Greg Roman still has that continuity, and we can take Mr. Marty out.
Okay.
And
yes.
second, one thing
Oof.
that I will say Lamar that gets me more excited of anything Lamar does is he is a hard-working guy. He wants to be good. That has me excited because I think in the offseason he's going to watch film and he's going to critique himself and look how to be better in those situations that he wasn't thriving. So
All right, fair enough. I mean, I think you guys all would agree that that's something that he has put into play and kind of put out there with just his mannerisms, how he is in some of the press conferences, pre, post, and throughout the week. So here's my question, because this is a very debated topic here in Baltimore, and it is polarizing at this point, to say the least. I don't know whether you say Joe and Lamar is more polarizing than John or no John, but I'm going to tell you guys this. If you had to choose for the playoff run a quarterback that will get you to the Super Bowl, is it Joe, everything else aside from the injury, from some of the issues with the running game, if you put Joe in the scheming, so to speak, that they are running with Lamar. Now, we all know that it's not going to be perfect because he's not a scramble quarterback. He is a true pocket QB. So my question is, if I had to tell you your life depends on it, who are you taking in the playoffs? Who are you going with? Joe?
So if you're a Super Bowl or bust right now, it would be Joe Flacco. I think that would be the quarterback you would roll with if you're in Super Bowl or bust mode, because obviously he's a veteran. He you can do a lot more passing plays with Joe Flacco than Lamar, of course. And there's always the argument that, well, you can stop this Ravens offense right now because it's just pure running pretty much, right? So, but if you add Joe Flacco to the mix, then that would probably give us a better chance to win the Super Bowl. But again, that's my opinion.
All right. So, yeah, I think that's one of those things that when you look at some of these teams, and we've said it before, is that some of these teams in the playoffs, going into the playoffs, are are 2 and 3 dimensional as far as how they can effectively hit you. And the Ravens kind of maybe don't have all those pieces fully together. So, Fred, what is your take on this?
So there's two things if you go with Flacco. There's two things that you get. You obviously get the better passer right now in their careers with Joe Flacco, and you get the veteran experience that he's been in the playoffs, that he's had a Super Bowl, he's a Super Bowl MVP. Those are two givens, right? The problem is Flacco has never really had too much success in this offense with Marty Morningwig. He's had flashes, just like he has throughout his entire 11-year career. We don't know what we would get in a Lamar offense with this offense that we're seeing right now in a playoff run. I think this game coming up against San Diego will tell a lot about that, because this is going to have a whole heck of a lot of playoff feel to it. It's going to have primetime feel to it. There's implications on it. But I think, again, hashtag Lamar effect, I think what we're seeing with this team, the difference in this team as a whole, when you put Joe back out there, you lose the time of possession. You lose, the defense is tired. There's just so many other factors that Lamar brings. And again, the running schemes that we're seeing, the blocking schemes that we're seeing, those blocking schemes are built around a mobile quarterback. They're built for a mobile quarterback. And defenses have to play spy. They have to play contain. They have to play, aware of where Lamar is. Again, this running game is not what it is right now if Joe is in there at quarterback, because the defenses don't have the game plan for that. So I personally, if I had to pick right now, I'll go the other side of it. I'd say I'd like to see where we'd go with Lamar.
Ooh. All right. Wow. All right. So, Ingraven, what do you think, man?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's a pretty obvious choice. If we had to get to the Super Bowl right here, right now, and it's do or die, we got somebody who's been there, done that. We got somebody who's been in the playoffs and been super hot. We got somebody that has that experience. We got somebody that we know is the better passer. And like Fred said, we got somebody that's been a Super Bowl MVP. So why wouldn't you go with him? Well, because recently we haven't seen any of that. Recently we've seen so many rookie mistakes from an 11-year vet, and it's been some stuff that, because I know every pass is not going to be perfect from a quarterback. We get that. Even if it's Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, whatever. But there's some stuff that's just inexcusable. Not going through your reads, just with an opportunity where you have to throw the ball away and you throw it directly to a defender for an interception. It's just I understand why people would want to go with Flack because of what he's done before, but I feel like going with the unknown is a lot more. I feel like the ceiling is a lot higher with that, because with Flack we know who he is, and we've seen what he's done, and we've seen what he's done in the playoffs, which has been fun, which has been great. But it didn't start like that, and the way his career has been recently, it doesn't necessarily look like it's going to end like that either. Him just being another monster, another animal in the playoffs, it's a bittersweet type of thing for me, because it's like, man, when we get playoff Flacco, it's like, yes, playoff Flacco, we know he's going to be on point, but why don't we get that during the regular season too, on a consistent basis? Not even asking for it every single game, but why?
Just every once in a while.
Yeah, just if he can turn it on like he has been in the recent playoff runs, which were years ago, but if he can turn it on just like that in the playoffs and become a completely different animal, then why can't we get that same animal week in, week out, at least 12, 13 weeks out of the season? Why can't we get that? And
Part
I
of
know
your
a lot
answer
of
to
people.
that is Marty Morningwig.
I know.
Why do we keep coming full circle to this?
I mean, cancer is cancer. It is a cancer to the team.
Yeah, but Joe didn't do good with the other coordinators. If you take Kubiak out of the equation, there was people before Marty, and he didn't do good with them.
See,
So-
with Kubiak, I don't even think Joe didn't even have put up any crazy numbers with Kubiak. He was 27 touchdowns and 12 interceptions.
Right.
Like that's good, and that's good for our standards
That's
as
good
Ravens
for Flacco,
fans.
right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But just go ahead, my fault.
All right, Sonny. So it's all right. So, Sonny, what's your take on it? This is getting interesting now.
No, so going back to Raven, I agree. It wasn't like he was Aaron Rodgers, but he was more consistent. And my point goes back to it's not only Marty, it's Flacco. So I will pick Lamar. Look, the reality is Lamar is like an enigma for teams. It's very hard to prepare. The Chargers are going to be the first team, not only that is more balanced, but they actually have more time. They play on a Thursday night. They have a long week. We had a short week. They will have more time than the rest of the teams. If we win this week and we beat the Brownies, we make the playoffs. I know Joe Noobo put the scenario out there, Joe. Hopefully, oh my God, you give me nightmares. But assuming we make the playoffs, that first team that we face in the playoffs again, Lamar's gonna be an enigma. They don't have enough time. The hardest part, if we win that first playoff game, is the next matchup because they will have 2 weeks to prepare for Lamar. Lamar Jackson brings an element that you can't prepare currently for him, and Flacco you can. And the other thing, the other problem you have with Flacco is, let's say Flacco goes in, he starts slow, well, the team is gonna start questioning you. Why you bench the rookie? The rookie got us here. Why are you gonna bench the rookie? You might lose the team in that game. I don't want Flacco. You know what I want Flacco? If we need a Hail Mary, then take Lamar out, put Flacco. Other than that, leave Lamar in.
All right. So I mean, I'm surprised that you say that just for the simple fact of that last point. You know, Joe can be game planned, but Lamar can really be game planned as well because obviously as we've talked about, some of the throws haven't been as consistent as we like. I mean, he can throw the ball. He does have a bit of an arm, but the ball comes out a little wobbly. You know, it's sometimes thrown behind the receivers a lot more than you'd see in the average quarterback. I have a resolve for all of you, and I just want to get your response. What about Bob?
Hey.
It was a good
old
movie.
RG3.
Leave that alone. Leave that where it is.
So going back to your point, Scott, yeah, he does come a little wobbly. You know what Flacco has, and I don't get this. He gets a lot of bat and balls in the pocket.
Yeah, he was leading the NFL before he went down.
Especially this year, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, this year was more than any other year.
So again, there's no benefit for bringing Flacco. Because they talk about bringing Flacco for trick plays, and I was like, okay, in one of my videos I said like, we should bring Flacco, put him out wide, right? Maybe have Smoke on one of the sides, maybe a tight end. And they're going to think, okay, this guy's not going to do anything. I'm not saying to throw the ball to him. And then before the snap, you bring Flacco in, and the defense is going to be set up as a run defense. And maybe you take a shot. But again, unless it's a Hail Mary, I don't want to see Flacco in.
I haven't liked the two quarterback situation since it started this year, and I still don't like it. I don't care if Lamar's out there starting and Joe's backing up, or Joe's out there and Lamar's backing up. I hate that. I hate the breaking up of the game flow and all that. I mean, it's just roll with what you got. You know, if you go out there with Lamar, that's your guy. If you go out there with Joe, that's your guy. There's a lot in sports. Sports are very mental, and I'm telling you, whether they want to admit it or not, it affects them when they're pulled from a game like that. And I just don't think it does any good. I get it. I understand that, like, you think, like, in a situation where we might be down by 3 scores or like that, the better passer's the better option. Maybe you bring Joe out then. But it just still, if you roll the dice, you take it with Lamar, you go with Lamar.
All right, we'll do an all call. Anybody last points?
Yes, let me bring this in. So you can understand the progression with Lamar. Remember in Kansas City, the 2-minute offense, they were trying to run it. It looked horrible. It was bad. Lamar fumbled. But at the 2-minute offense in Tampa, Lamar looked more poised, more commanding. They were on a pretty 2-minute offense. So I'm just, as you see Lamar with time, he's just going to get better. And
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
what I see.
He's showing progression week to week. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so one last point. We've been talking a lot about the offensive side of the ball, but let's talk about this defense for a second, because the defense has been kind of the one consistent thing for this team throughout most of the year. So my question is, you got some of these veterans out there that have been playing all year, a Sizzle, a Judon, a Mosley, a Humphrey, who's a younger guy that's able to kind of have a good season as a shutdown type corner. Not completely at shutdown, but he has been playing good football, especially over the past 3 to 4 weeks. To Fred's point, hashtag Lamar effect, I guess. But this defense, can they last the rest of the season? And if we can make it to the playoffs, can we expect this same high level of play from most of the players, exception Weddle right now, who's having a little bit of a rough time the past 2 or 3 games? But
he's a Pro Bowler.
2 or 3
Don't even
months.
go down that road.
we're going to go down that road?
No.
That's a whole other video.
All right, so let's start with Fred. Fred, what do you think? Can this defense withstand it, and can they withstand a playoff run?
With Lamar, yeah. I mean, it's simple. It's if they're on the field less, you've got a veteran-laden defense that's going to be more rested. And we've seen, again, we talk about this on the show all the time. Terrell Suggs, he comes out the gates in the beginning of the year like gangbusters, and then he gets worn down, and then you disappears forever. Ever since they brought Lamar out and he's been on the field less, he's been rejuvenated, he's gotten his energy back, and we're starting to see everything. The pass rush from him, Judon, everybody is starting to be better. And again, it's simple math. The less opportunities a team has to score the ball, the better chances you have. So I think, again, that this effect, I'm not saying that Lamar specifically is the whole reason that this team is doing what it's doing. It's just the effect that he has on the entire team and the way that the entire team plays the ball, plays. I just think that the defense is better suited right now, and they're playing the way that they are because of the way that the offense is performing, and they're extending drives, third downs, and getting first down conversions, and we're just seeing a lot better defense because of that.
All right. Ingraven?
Yeah, I definitely think this defense can last for the long run because they've been playing pretty good all season long. And throughout the season, even before and after the quarterback change, the defense, they just need to fix some small things, and they just miss by that much on so many plays. They just miss by that much on getting a sack, that much by getting an interception. But they still, for what they're doing, they're the number one defense, and I think they are second to last in turnovers forced.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's insane, man. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. How can you have a number one defense when you're not even forcing any turnovers? So I
Kind
think
of a
that
flip from last year, huh? Sorry to cut you off, but
no, you're good. Because last year, I think we led the league in turnovers.
yep.
But it's been the
Dean
same
Pease
story though. It's been the same story with the defense from last year to this year, where they just don't close. And I think they can last the long haul, but they gotta find a way to close. They had the Chiefs game, they didn't close. The Saints game, they could have had it, they didn't close. And of course we know what happened with the offense started getting a little stale, and then the whole Justin Tucker thing where we all almost shed a tear. But I think they can definitely last the long haul. It's just a matter of just fixing the little stuff, and they'll be good to go. With this offense, the way that the offense is managing the game, controlling the clock, letting them chill on the sidelines and whatnot, not only does it give them more time to rest, but it also gives them more time to decipher the opposing team's offenses, to go over plays, to go over what the opposing team is doing, to make adjustments and whatnot. So it's helping out in more ways than we can even see firsthand. So I think they're built for the long run, and they'll be good to go.
All right. Well, so, and I'll let you come back to that Ingraven in a second. SZG, I want to get yours in, and then I've got a follow-up question for all of you guys, and actually in reference to the turnover situation. So, SZG, Sonny, what do you think, man?
So, a couple things. I think it goes back to Lamar. If Lamar doesn't turn the ball over, I think this defense is going to be good. This defense, while the time that Lamar has been starting, has been against really good offenses. The Buccaneers were a good offense. KC was a good offense. They have been
Atlanta.
tested against the Steelers. They got been Atlanta, yeah. They was tested against the Steelers, against New Orleans. On the defensive side, we have been tested. We haven't always won. But if you check how those offenses perform against the Ravens and how perform against other teams, our defense held pretty good. Now, I think it goes back to Wink. Wink likes to play a lot of aggressive defense, a lot of man up, bump, push them, getting out of the route, versus what Team Peace did. Team Peace did more zones, which had better positions, had mostly I feel like usually gets 1 or 2 picks per year. This year, I think he has none. I could be wrong, but it's because he's doing more man-to-man. Our corners are doing more man-to-man. So we see our defense having success on yardage, on not giving points, but it's hard to get turnovers on man to man. So, while saying all that, I do think this defense is playoff tested and should be able to hold in the playoff run.
All right, easy enough. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we watch this defense, they're great, right? And they can be great for 55 minutes of the game. But the issue is those last 5 minutes, right? Like when you need a turnover, when you need a fourth down stop, that's where they come up short, right? I know everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
So that's what's keeping them from being an elite defense, in my opinion, is that they're not able to make the play. There's missed opportunities. The fumble in the Chiefs game in overtime. Terrell Suggs overshot it. So many interceptions missed this season. And just stuff like that. They don't come up with the big plays when we need it. And that's what's keeping them from being elite. But I think they're a great defense, and if they can clean those things up and maybe, figure out a way to actually finish, then yeah, I think it is going to be sustainable throughout the rest of the season.
Okay, fair enough. So follow-up question for all of you guys, and we can kind of go in order real quick on what you think on this statement. So one of the things that I brought up to Fred is when I've been watching a lot of these games, Weddle in specific, but a lot of these guys on this defense, when they are going in for a tackle, first priority is knocking the ball out. In my opinion, that's really easy to prepare for. It's anytime you're being tackled by a Raven, you hold the ball tighter. When you're forcing them to actually run with the ball, make a play, and they're just worried about getting hit and getting tackled and not always knocking the ball out. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a Raven with a closed fist and a tackle instead of going around and wrapping the guy up. But one of the things that I think is playing a role into that is that's what they're focused on. So that's why they're not getting as many turnovers. A lot of those turnovers in previous years have come from strips, have come from, the interceptions as well, which we've seen a little bit less. And I think that's, in my opinion, because Jimmy's not healthy. So you have a corner that's a little unhealthy. Humphrey is fairly locked down, but Weddle's not playing his best game and taking bad routes to balls and things like that. And then to your guys' point, some of the tip balls that they're hitting them right in the hands. They're close to the line, so I'm going to give them a break. It's like catching a 90-mile-an-hour fastball about 12 feet from the pitcher, so that's a little hard to do. But from the tackling standpoint, how do you guys feel about that, Fred?
I've always I've never been a fan of the approach of trying to strip first. I always feel like you should wrap up, tackle first. Turnovers just kind of happen. You place your shoulder on the ball. A guy's knee comes up and hits the ball. Turnovers just happen as far as forced fumbles go. I've never been a fan of trying to strip a ball. And that's always something that's kind of frustrated me in certain games, certain situations with the Ravens, is that they will try to make that big play or that strip play instead of just wrapping up. We're seeing that with Weddle. Weddle going in with leaning in with his shoulder instead of just wrapping up and tackling. He's getting ran over by just about anybody. It's frustrating. It's something that turnovers can be luck sometimes. It's like Joe said earlier, just kind of running past balls versus, stopping and picking the ball up. There's certain situations that play factors into that, but I'm always of the notion to wrap up and tackle first and foremost before you try to make a big play and make a strip.
All right, Ingraven?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that with them trying to force those fumbles and go for those strips instead of wrapping up, because that has, it was bad in that Chiefs game, just the tackling. I think that might have been the worst it's been all season, and you saw the immediate results or the direct results of that. There will be a play where Chiefs, a wide receiver, he may catch the ball and maybe be stumbling a little bit, and since we didn't wrap up, he goes from making a 2-yard catch to it being like a 6 or 7-yard catch, just because the tackle was broken or the lack of a tackle was broken. And just like Fred was just saying, with it's been I've seen it with Humphrey a little bit, a lot less recently though, but with Eric Weddle throughout the year, just going for that, instead of just wrapping up, just going for that big hit, really trying to make that big play. And it could be because there's been a lack of turnovers. Maybe you might be a little frustrated, or they may be a little frustrated, like, man, we really need to get a turnover. Let's make something happen. And they go for the big hit. And like we saw in the Chiefs game, like 3rd and 19. 3rd and 19, Mahomes throws it up, Tyreek Hill catches it, and Eric Weddle, oh yeah, I'm big and bad, I'm going to knock this guy out, goes for a big hit, and Tyreek Hill literally bounces off of him, stays up, and boom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's been so much of that, and that can, I think it may be because of the lack of turnovers and them just really trying to make their mark and really show, yeah, we a real defense, and but you at the same time you just you got to wrap up, because if you don't wrap up in enough cases, yeah, we all do love the big hits and whatnot, and it can really show your manhood on the football field. But at the same time, you got to be smart, and the game is super fast, so I can't like hold that against them necessarily. But you got to know you've been playing in the league for, I don't know how long Eric Weddle's been around for. It's been a super long time though. But he knows his football. He's super smart, super smart. But it's just, you got to play smart too. Just because you know it doesn't mean that you're executing it. It obviously isn't, because like on that 3rd and 19, that could have been a stop, a 4th down stop, or a 3rd down stop if he would have just wrapped him up. Even if he would have just held him up and then got help from somebody else, it would have been a stop. But it was just super frustrating, that play. Going back to that entire game.
Guy like Hill, you got to wrap him up at the ankles. You can't let him use his feet. And for a wide receiver, he can get out of a tackle pretty easily just with his feet.
Yeah,
Sonny?
Dangerous, man.
So, this is why, and he's not a fan favorite in Baltimore, but I like Tony Jefferson. He usually is a short tackler. He wraps up, he brings people down. Now, that being said, I think the problem is a league problem. If you look at in the league, guys just don't like to wrap up. They just like to just put the shoulder, try to decapitate somebody, right? And that usually doesn't work. That is good, I feel like, if you're in the sidelines, because a little push takes him outside. For the most part, we have to wrap up. And I just going back for the same sentiment, the Chiefs game was very frustrated for me with tackling. I felt like the defense played really, really good minus tackling, right? And I do agree with Ingraven. I think they're just pressing for a turnover. I think turnovers at this point, I would prefer us to just keep being a no turnover team and holding teams to a low scoring game. Because if that's the style they want to play, meaning bump and run, pressing, yes, it's gonna be hard for turnovers to come. But you know what? It doesn't matter if they only score 10 points. I prefer them to only score 10 points and us being solid, tackling, good coverage, being clean, no penalties, and playing that style of game. I think next year, at this point, it is what it is. Next year, they need to figure out where are we going to run? Can we zone in sometime so we can get the picks? We're not getting too much pressure. That doesn't help doing the turnovers, right? So we're seeing Wink bringing more and more blitzes. So will that help the turnovers? Yeah, it might, but it's essential for us to make short tackles. I remember, what was the game? I think it was against the Titans. Jimmy whiff on a clean sack. He was just nobody touching, nobody blocked him. He wins. It was against Saints. He went straight to the QB.
Oh yeah.
Drew Brees didn't have to do much, right? He's not mobile, and he whiff. I'm like, dude, just take it easy. You had the sack. So they all need to bring it down a notch and make sure to make those tackles. So.
All right.
Jimmy's your safety of the future, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. Joe, what do you think, man?
I agree. I mean, I agree with pretty much everything you guys have said. I think it is a lack of discipline, like especially with tackling. We see a lot of it from Eric Weddle, right? That I agree. I think he's frustrated. I think he wants to make the big play. He wants to hit him big. He wants to strip the ball out. He wants to make something happen for the defense, which I can respect. But he also has to be disciplined and wrap up with his arms, and we just don't see that a lot, especially from Eric Weddle. And it's not only Eric Weddle, it's a lot of the defensive players, like you said, Sonny. Jimmy Smith had the sack. All he had to do was just wrap up, like just do what you're practicing for every single week, and just tackle Drew Brees. And it's stuff like that that keeps them from being an elite defense. Like I said, they need to be more disciplined.
How much of that on Weddle do you think is the transition of him having to be the one to make the play calls and make sure that that play call is ready, and him not being in position sometimes because he's trying to still get back as the ball's being hiked?
That's a good point.
I don't know. I don't know. I think he's doing great putting everybody in position. I just think Father H is cashing to him. I think he's just a little bit slower than before, and he's trying to compensate different ways. He's not as shifty. Going back to that 4th and 19 against the 4th and whatever it was against the Kansas City.
Against the Chiefs.
Against
4th
the
and
Chiefs.
9.
The 3rd and 19.
4th and 9. Yes. No, but I'm actually talking about the 4th and 9. So mostly I thought it did a pretty good job for being a middle linebacker, trying to keep up with Tyreek Hill.
The 4th and 9.
Weddle just took a bad, horrible, horrific angle. Right?
been
He was
all
trying to
year.
make the play, right?
He wouldn't prevent the catch, but he would have prevented them for gaining at least 30 more yards. So, but I think he's not used to being as slow as he is. And I love Weddle, but I think he's slower than before. He doesn't explode as he used to. I think that's his biggest problem.
To come full circle, he is a Pro Bowler. Just saying.
Yeah, he is a Pro Bowler.
All right, guys. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank you guys for joining us. This has been fun. Glad to have all of you guys together in one spot so we can get all of our takes from our Baltimore social media guys out there that are putting their feet to the pavement with all the videos that everybody is doing, all the different podcasts that everybody's doing. So I just want to give everybody a quick chance to shout everything out, tell everybody where they can find you at, tell them about your content. Go ahead. Let's start off with Joe.
Yeah, guys, on YouTube, I'm Joe Noobo. On Twitter, I'm at NF Podcasts. You can probably see it down here. Yeah, that's pretty much my social media. If you guys want to check it out, I've completely switched to only Ravens now, so that's what you'll get if you subscribe to me. So,
All right, Sonny.
So, you can find me at SZG Sports and Twitter. You can find me at SZG Sports and Facebook. And I just opened an IG, SZG Sports as well. On YouTube, again, SZG Sports, so I'm pretty consistent. So, and I do Ravens. I do like 2 or 3 videos for the Ravens weekly. I do Wizards, Washington Wizards, if you like basketball. I do those as well. And as soon as the Orioles start, I'm going to start doing some Orioles one.
All right, great. Ingraven.
It's a team. Keep it clean. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, all that good stuff. Everything is Ingraven Vids, all one word. We of course do the Ravens videos. Do about 20 videos a day, and just pushing it out there, man. Trying to grow, trying to help other people grow too, because it's a team. If you want to be part of Team Keep It Clean, make sure you subscribe. And of course, as you see all these other guys here too, we got plenty more work to do together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hashtag no, absolutely. And Fred, why don't you give us our plug, man?
Yeah, so Fred and Scott, we're both we're from Birdland BS. We do a weekly podcast every Tuesday night that we live stream to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. It's every Tuesday night, 8:45 Eastern Time. We also do some Monday Night Football commentary right now, which has caught on and done pretty well for us. So we have a lot of fun on that. That's on YouTube. So check us out. Check us out on the website, www.birdlandbs.com. And all of our social platforms are at BirdlandBS.
All right, guys. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. If you have any questions, comments, make sure you leave them in the videos below. And be sure to reach out to us. We'd be happy to have you. Make sure you hit subscribe on everybody. Make sure you follow everybody. Make sure you like everybody. Thanks for joining us, guys. We really appreciate it.
See you.
Yeah.
thanks, man. Thank you.